Good evening, everyone. Dreamcast 720 here. I'm visited tonight with my friend Pinky. Say hello, Pinky.
Hello, Piggy.
And tonight we're going to be discussing that abomination that was Star Wars The Last Jedi. So, Pinky, what did you think of the movie? Tell me what you thought.
Okay, honestly, I didn't think it was that bad, but there was a lot of stuff. I'm like, I cast shade. It's shady. No, mm-mm.
It
Would
sh-
not,
would
would
not
not,
recommend.
nah.
Okay. But you said it wasn't that bad. What about it wasn't that bad? I mean, give me your highlight moments of the movie.
Highlight moments of the movie because I was such a Carrie Fisher fan. Not because she was Princess Leia, but I love Carrie Fisher. Seeing her on screen, it did sort of make me excited to watch it. How all the cool stuff they did with Leia. That was actually pretty cool. The rest of it, though, I'm like, what the actual is this? What is this?
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. Now,
Okay.
yeah, okay. Yes, I have to agree. I'm a big Carrie Fisher fan. But Mary Poppins, Princess Leia was just that was just beyond the pale. I mean, this here you have Princess Leia who's never demonstrated any use of the Force other
Right.
than being able to reach out to Luke and vice versa. I mean, in the Force regard, and I mean, it's really kind of a shame because I mean, when you look at Carrie Fisher in this movie, I mean, you can really tell. I mean, she was not really feeling well. She was not. I don't really think 100% up to this movie.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that her performance was bad, other than what Ryan Johnson gave her to work with, which wasn't much. Um, and it baffles me beyond belief that they would go and have her survive. Now,
Right.
they knew that Carrie Fisher, I mean, passed away before final production had been done. Why wouldn't you go back in and just change that and made that a plot element that she gets blown out into space and dies? Have Kylo Ren go on one of his tantrums and take out the trooper in the ship that took it out and do it that way. But yet you have her survive. I mean, I know
Right.
there was a conversation between Kathleen Kennedy and Carrie Fisher where Carrie Fisher said that Episode 9 had better be all about her. Episode 7 was all about Han Solo. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, was all about, Luke Skywalker. So Episode 9 should be all about Princess Leia.
Hmm.
Now, not that this movie wasn't. I mean, you start out with a movie that's the O.J. Simpson chase scene. I mean, that's the only way I can compare this movie. This movie started out with the O.J. Simpson chase scene. It picked up from The Force Awakens.
Right.
And I started yelling at the screen because all I kept saying is, "You're dead already. This movie's over. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead." And yet, we're plodding this along. We're plodding this along.
Oh yeah.
And Ryan Johnson, I mean, he checked, all the diversity boxes.
Hmm.
Everybody was represented, not in the
Hmm.
best of ways, but they were represented.
Right.
I mean, so I mean, give me some more of your thoughts on what, especially the opening scene. Start out there.
No, please. Okay. So yes, I like the banter that they did, but that long drawn out part that where all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're shooting all of the bombers, and then it's like, okay, Okay, one's gonna make it. No, one's gonna make it. No, jump to hyperspeed. To light speed. Do something. No, we're gonna keep directing. The longer it went on, I was just like, can I turn this off already?
Well, but not only that, and in movies in general, you have an infinite number of ways to go in space. It's not linear.
Yeah.
You don't have to go just left and right. You have more spaces to go. But yet, no, we can't do that. And then, of course, we've got Poe Dameron. I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm going to go through and destroy everything. Oh, wait, my ship was hit, but BB 8's going to smash his head into the computer. Oh, man, look at that. The guns came back online.
Yeah, but I really like Poe.
You like Poe.
I like Poe.
Poe, I don't can't say that I hate Poe. I can't say that I like him either. He's he to me is a beta male trying to be an alpha, and it's just not working out for him.
No, I think Oscar Isaac does a really good job with what they give to him. I mean, really for star power, once you get past Carrie, he's it.
Well, no, you have Mark Hamill, and I mean, right, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, and then most of the rest of this cast. I mean, Daisy Ridley, who?
Yeah, new
Um,
person.
the guy that played Finn. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. I mean, he's known, but he's not a big name star.
No, he's not.
And as messed up as this is going to sound,
Hmm.
I could have actually almost seen him in the role of the solo movie as opposed to who they've got in there now. The difference is, no, he doesn't look like Harrison Ford,
No.
but he does, at least from the perspective of The Last Jedi, have the ability to have a Han Solo swagger. I think if it was
Hey,
written right, he could pull off that swagger. But in The
yeah.
Last Jedi, I mean, he didn't. He came
Well,
across as very whiny, and I'm the bestest pilot out there ever, and I can do anything.
think that I think Poe was kind of written that way because he was made to kind of like, let's push you into the back seat. No, let's push you into the back seat. No, let's keep pushing you into the back because this movie's not about you, Poe. Even though like part of the very first movie of episode 7, a lot of it centered around Poe, but it's still, I mean, the way that they have Poe is like you would think that he would be the mentor to Finn, but he's not. Finn is bringing it.
Well, I mean, they've turned Finn into the Jar Jar Banks of this post trilogy.
I know,
I mean,
and it's sad. And I'm not a big fan of Ray either.
no, and the more I hear Daisy Ridley talking about The Last Jedi, I just really kind of want to go, just shut up, because you sound like an idiot. I mean, I'm not saying that Daisy Ridley doesn't have some acting chops, and I realize that she's working with what J.J.
She's given.
Abrams and Ryan Johnson have given her.
Hmm.
But I mean, but she went out and did this big press tour and basically talking about, JJ and Ryan really heard what we have to say and our input and wanted our input and thought it was important. And I'm going, if this was your input to him and this is the finished product and you're happy with this product, You need to find a new line of work. And people say, well, you're jaded. You're a Star Wars fan. You're an older Star Wars fan. I mean, you're jaded. No,
But
that has
no,
no. I'm not jaded. A bad movie is a bad movie. Both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi ripped off the original trilogy. I mean, they've ripped off everything. There's really nothing left to rip off. So now you're going to have episode 9, and Rian Johnson sat there and took everything and fucked it all up because any continuity story from The Force Awakens has been completely destroyed. And just to look at it from just not as a Star Wars fan, but just as a movie itself. And this goes beyond, people say, well, there were major plot holes. No, it goes beyond that. This was bad writing, bad direction, bad storytelling. This was pushing identity politics. It was pushing an agenda. It was pushing, feminism. You've got, an all mostly female cast.
no,
No.
no, I don't think it was.
Yes, you had a mostly female cast. There were.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it wasn't pushing the whole female agenda as far as females are concerned, because I think the only reason that somebody could say that is because, well, you went from having just really only Leia really as a focus of anything in the original Star Wars movies, and then you had uh, Amidala being forced as an issue in the other ones because she's the mother of Luke and Leia, and of course she's the love interest. And now, when you have in this one, there really is no love story tying everything together. It's just happenstances just happening all over the place. And you just have it for me, and that's why I think this is a bad movie, because there wasn't anything really connecting these people back to the main focus of Star Wars at all. They're just all over the place with there is no love story. The characters.
What do you mean
I'm
there's no
sorry,
love story?
Rey is
What
not an
about
interesting
Finn and
character.
Rose? Of course there was a love story. What about Finn and Rose?
They're not that's a love story.
Well, in Rian Johnson's world, that apparently is considered a love story.
Nah, no, no, no. That's just that that gave me nothing. I wasn't interested in watching Finn and Rose potentially, or maybe, or eventually falling in love, because she didn't like Finn to begin with. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, you're a deserter." Well, yeah, that's the story of Finn. That's what Finn does. No, but I didn't get that that was supposed to happen.
Well, don't
Or
you remember when that whole scene happened when you were a deserter? But before that, you're one of the heroes, and she almost worshipped him. You're one of the heroes, and oh my God, I'm so glad to meet you, and blah blah blah. Until she sees the pack in the escape pod.
yeah, that was just her having a fangirl moment. That doesn't mean that
Right, but
they.
my point is though, when you said there was no love story, they tried to force one. The
And it was
whole,
terrible.
I mean, the whole Jakku on the planet Jakku was just a fucking joke. I mean,
Yeah.
all I did was I was still yelling at the TV because I'm going, okay, wait a minute. So here's your political moment. They're rich and powerful, and they're living it up. And of course, we got the slave kids. We've
Okay,
got the
see, for
beaten
that
animals.
one, I'll agree. That one was the one political vehicle. I won't say that the rest of the movie had any politics in it because it was stupid.
Well, no, but it did. Remember, I mean, how often are you going to find, even in a fictional universe,
Hmm.
one big star cruiser with basically two guys and everybody else on board is a woman? Now, I understand that Carrie Fisher's daughter, she got a bit of a part in it. I mean, she was all excited about working with her mother, and that's
Mhm.
fine. She gets, I mean, I think altogether she gets like 4 or 5 minutes of screen time, if that much. She's the one that had the little pigtails that was supposed to
Yeah.
be, and you're
The
like, okay.
little.
And you're like, you're not convincing. But I'm like, okay, I understand why they did it. That's fine. It was a favor to her. That's great. But then you're looking at the rest of this and you're going, no. For this inclusion and being representative, and
No.
it just was not there. But yet,
It wasn't even. But see, and that's how we differ. I'm looking at this movie going, there's female characters? Question mark. There's a female agenda? Question mark. What are you talking about? Because I don't even see the female characters as a strong female voice over the men to even give a shit
well,
that they.
no, I mean, yes and no. Because if you step back and look at the movie itself, how are men portrayed in this movie? Now you have what, 4 or 5 white men in this movie? Let's see, you've got little Hitler boy, you've got the buffoon, you've got um, the impulsive jackass that is Poe. I mean, you start to go through it, and you're like, okay, but yet at every turn, Laura Dern, Admiral Purple Hair, that you're just like, what? Now, I have no problem that there was a female admiral. I have no problem with that. I mean, there are real ones in the Navy now, then everything, and that's fine. My only problem is that you can't do this, especially when your ragtag fleet. You can't play this "I'm not going to tell you" card when you've got this fleet of Star Destroyers behind you, this dreadnought, pulverizing you, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not telling you anything. Yeah, fuck you people, I don't care. I'm not telling you anything. And I'm going, first of all, Laura Dern was wrong for the part. I mean,
Yeah.
if you
No
had,
charisma as that admiral at all.
yeah, she had no charisma, but she had no command presence. Find me a woman
Exactly.
with some command presence. I mean, ironically enough, the woman that plays Captain Phasma,
Yeah.
um,
Um.
I can't think of her name offhand, but you know, she had. I mean, besides doing that voice thing that they did with her,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, okay, but her natural
Gwendolyn
voice,
Christie.
yeah, we went all. But I mean, her natural voice and just
Mm-hmm.
presence, that you're going, yeah, I could have saw that.
Yeah. Definitely could see Gwendolyn Christie as higher than what she is as the highest ranking stormtrooper that she is. I could see her as easily as the vice admiral that Laura Dern plays. Laura Dern being the vice admiral, whatever her name is that's how memorable she was. Vice admiral, whatever her name was.
Yeah, Vice Admiral Gender Hire, as I call it. Um, but Brian Johnson, I mean, and at first for this movie, it's, well, you're too dumb to understand. You don't understand good storytelling. And I'm like, no, fuck you, Ryan Johnson. You don't know how to write.
Exactly.
I mean, the
Didn't
new.
he get fired?
No. No. Not only did he not get fired, Kathleen Kennedy and Disney said, you know what? You made the most fucked up film of all time. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to give you your own trilogy. Yes.
Wait, I thought one of their directors just got
Ah,
fired and let go.
that wasn't for a Star Wars movie.
Yes.
Ryan Johnson did not get fired. If he did, that's up to the minute news that I'm not aware of. But Ryan Johnson, no, they gave him his own trilogy. And I mean, even Mark Hamill has come out after this movie and said, I don't care about Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about being in the new Star Wars. I don't care. I mean, and I know part of that is I feel sorry for Mark Hamill. I mean, at first he went out there and he knew what a piece of shit this movie was, and he warned people. And I think Kathleen Kennedy and Disney walked up to him and said, hey, you have a contract here. Shut the fuck up. Promote the movie. You know, you got paid your money.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, because you notice his story kind of changed, he goes, well, it's not, fans' expectations are what they are, and all of that BS. And you heard it kind of change, where in the beginning, no, he told you. He's like, look, this film is shit. I mean, this was no different than Liam Neeson with The Phantom Menace. Liam Neeson originally was so excited about doing a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
Until he read the script for The Phantom Menace. And, I mean, was very vocal. He goes, this is utter garbage. And that was why he got killed. I mean, he was originally supposed to survive for another movie.
Okay.
But, I mean, they had such a falling out that,
Mm-hmm.
no, he gets killed.
Oh, yeah. Now, it's the guy who was supposed to direct 9. His name is Colin Trevorrow.
Right.
And he wanted to bring in more about Luke. He wanted Star Wars 9 to be about Luke. And he begged them to let him redo it to make it be more about Luke. And I guess...
Wait, are you talking about 9 or are you talking about 8?
The guy who directs 9.
Right. Well, they got J.J. Abrams coming back for that, which...
Yeah. It's over. Yeah.
I mean... and like I said, and J.J. Abrams, he's another one. I mean, he destroys anything he gets his hands on. I mean, the Star Trek reboot. I mean, the first one was okay. It was what I would call Star Wars light. It wasn't Star Trek. And that goddamn lens flare, just will never.
Love the lens flare.
Love him and his lens flare. He just loves it to death. And I mean, I am curious to see what Quentin Tarantino does with the new one, but that's a subject for another day. But what other highlights to the movie? What were some of the other highlights for you for The Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi.
That you're just like, wow, that was really cool. And seeing if you got to think about it longer than 10 seconds, that's telling you there was nothing.
Yeah. But no, and the reason I'm trying to think about it, even though I just recently watched this movie, because I was like, no, I'm not going to watch it. I'll wait until they're all coming out. Stand out things about Last Jedi, other than the special effects that went on, things that I was hoping for did not happen, and that's what irritated me the most.
So, what things were you hoping for?
I was hoping for, even knowing that they're going to have Lando Calrissian return for the
right, Talkability Waves returning for a part.
For Solo, with Billy D. Williams being like elderly as he is, why didn't they have either the actual person who's supposed to play Lando in the reboot, or not in the reboot, in the Solo movie, make an appearance in this one? This was a perfect time to bring out Lando or Lando's children, because they're not written about. There's nothing about them.
Well, but you can't bring out Lando in the Solo movie because this is supposed to be them much younger when they first met. But Lando was supposed to be making an appearance in The Last Jedi.
Right?
And
And he wasn't there.
I don't know if Billy D. Williams read that and said, "Oh fuck no, there's no way."
Well, he's in a wheelchair,
I
so he's
mean,
in a wheelchair right
yeah,
now.
but to make an appearance, I mean, it could have been he could have had an appearance on the ship. He could have had an appearance, at that outpost. Um, and you're going to tell me, in that whole section of the galaxy, really, there's no Rebel Alliance ships anywhere to come help them.
That would have been a perfect time to have Lando show up.
Lando to the rush. Oh no, but we can't do that. No, no. In Kathleen Kennedy's eyes, we can't do something like that. We can't have the patriarchy come and save you. No, no, no. We can't do that. Can't do that. Absolutely not.
It's a
That's.
female character.
I mean, that's. You just can't do that. I mean, even at the very end, where you see the ship take off and you see the Millennium Falcon and all of that, you still could have done this scene kind of a la Empire Strikes Back, where you have the end and you have the rebel ships coming up and communicates and says, "Hey," and it could have been just like you said, a little 2-3 minute cameo. Hey, we're glad you're okay. Let's get the hell out of here. Don't have to save us. Just we're glad that you're here. We've escaped, and we want to get the hell out of here. We're glad for the support. Nope, we can't do that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know even where to start tearing this movie apart. Like I said, like I've already done. I mean, Finn waking up, squirting water out.
Yeah, that made no sense. That's the technology that we evolved from having Luke in the water tank.
In the back
We're
of the tank, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna change that from the tank to a suit pumping water into him. But when it's Leia's turn to be in the med clinic, she's just sleeping in bed, in a normal bed.
With some kind of almost like a gas mask kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
That's it.
okay. And I'm fine. I was just out in space, and none of us got sucked out into space when this door opened.
Right.
I mean, it would have been different if and you could have saved that very, very easily. Put some blue neon there, or do a special effects deal where a force field goes into place so that nobody gets sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
And you grab her. How little shit. Well, and then you had, like I said, the bombers. Now, the one button on the ship, apparently, to open the bay doors to drop these bombs, which, first of all, would just float where they were at. They wouldn't drop. Because, there's no gravity in space.
Mm-hmm.
If you could have said something stupid that they're got little propulsion, something. You could have come up with something. Sensors, little deals, Nope, we can't even do that. But then it's sitting up on that top rail, and she just starts kicking this ladder that you see gives no give whatsoever.
Right.
But yet, somehow, miraculously, the thing comes falling. Oh, wait, and I caught it in the nick of time.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay. And I'm just kind of going, what? And then you get to the bigger parts. So we get back to the island where they're with Rey and Luke, and she's holding out that lightsaber, and it's this grand moment, and he takes it in his hand, and he looks at it, and he looks at her, and more or less says, fuck it. Just throws it over his shoulder and starts walking.
Yeah.
So, let me see. I have your father's lightsaber. No big deal. Fuck it. Don't need it. What?
Well, no, I actually remember what was my favorite scene.
Okay.
I actually saw the picture. My favorite scene was Yoda zapping the tree with the thunderstorm, and then just rolling his ass off about it, because then Luke freaks out. What are you doing?
Well, okay, yeah. All of a sudden, all this time, hi, my name's Yoda, and I have Force lightning powers, and I'm just gonna start zapping shit.
Yeah, Yoda did have Force lightning powers. He did. They gave them to him in The prequel, he had the ability to use Force lightning.
In which prequel?
In the episodes 2 and 3, he had Force lightning.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, remember he gets Force lightning shot at him
No.
by Count Dooku
No, no, no,
that
no.
he absorbs.
No, he used Force lightning in that fight against Dooku himself.
I'm not remembering that one.
It's like what you waited for the entire fight scene to see Yoda use Force lightning when he battles Darth Sidious.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Revenge of the Sith now because or no, that would be Attack of the Clones.
Yes, it is. Yes, Attack the Clones.
I will have to go back and see this. Now I'm remembering it very different, where Dooku tried to do like the Force lightning at him, and then Yoda kind of shot his out, and it gets kind of goes back and forth where they're pushing the Force,
Mm.
and it's more or less a stalemate. Now that's not the same as basically calling forth lightning out of the sky and basically destroying everything around you. I mean, that's totally different. I mean, it wasn't like the Emperor who walked up to Luke and decides, I'm going to electrocute you to death.
Right.
I'm sorry, Yoda never did that before. And all of a sudden he's like, you can call forth lightning from the sky and destroy shit? Where the hell were you when the Republic fell? If you could do that, just stand out there and start blasting stormtroopers.
That's the whole point. They didn't want him to do it.
I mean, that was just ridiculous. And the puppet, or either, like you said, they said that it was a puppet. That had to be the worst looking Yoda I've ever seen.
The one in Last Jedi.
The one in The Last Jedi.
That was a puppet. I thought it was.
That was not CGI. That was a puppet.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was a puppet. And
did not get Frank Oz to come back to do this.
You just kind of looked at it and went, what the hell?
Well, what happened to Frank? Because that's Frank Oz's creation.
And I'm not sure Frank Oz is still alive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could be mistaken, but no, I mean that had to be the worst. And what was with all the Skype calling between Rey and Kylo?
Skype calls.
What was with all the Skype calling here?
They told you.
That was retarded.
They did say why that happened. Snoke says why.
I mean, well, right, it's trick you and all of these other things, but I mean, really? Two people who've met, what, twice? And one person who is a Sith Lord, and one, I mean, who hasn't had the Force but, what, 20 minutes? Or realizes that she has the Force, and all of a sudden, I'm a big Mary Sue, and, oh man, I can do anything with the Force. I don't need to train. It's just natural.
And yeah, she's supposed to be the most powerful Jedi since the Skywalker
Right.
line.
I'm the most powerful, Luke Skywalker ain't got shit on me. And you're like, oh, come on. And then the scene where she's standing there on the mountain, waving that damn lightsaber around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, you're not training. You're just swinging a lightsaber around, playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not training. He still doesn't train her at all.
Not once. He only trains her to read that one time where she's meditating on the rock.
Right, and to reach out with your feelings. I mean, basically it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch out with your feelings. And then she goes into that, into that giant, which to me looks like a giant vagina. You know.
Like, oh, it's the Rancor pit.
Yeah. I mean, she, like I said, she goes down in there thinking she's going to discover her parents or whatever, and it looked like a giant vagina she crawled into, and I'm like, what?
So she crawled back into the birth canal.
Right, she crawled back into the birth canal, and you're just going, what? I mean, there's a lot of that moment throughout this movie. What? You know, I mean, basically, Luke Skywalker getting a space cow's tit off and drinking the milk, and you're like,
yeah, that was nasty.
you're going, whose fucking bright idea was this? And I mean, he was more of a codsier old man than even Obi-Wan Kenobi was. The way they wrote him. I'm a bitchy old man. The Jedi must die.
Because
I'm gonna have my Oprah today.
Because I'm mad because I didn't see what my nephew was supposed to turn into, nor did I help my nephew understand what the hell I was doing in his room, being a creepy uncle.
And a creepy uncle. Well, not only that, but I mean that probably was just the most egregiously stupid part of the movie.
What, the tit drinking?
No, not the tit drinking. That was just the part of the beginning. I mean, but when you have Luke, who risked everything, not only his life, but the rebellion and everything to save his father, now all of a sudden, no, I sense there's some dark side in you. Well, hell, I'm going to have to kill you now. What?
Yes.
And not only that, but the
goal to pull Ben back towards the light.
Right. Yeah, here, let me, turn on my lightsaber and come in, and no, you're not going to wake up hearing this noise.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand over you. No, you don't understand. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we're going to duke it out. And I'm going...
And then instead of having the epic lightsaber battle to give Ben some justification that, yes, my uncle is evil.
Right.
No, they just have him do...
They have him run away.
Yeah, they have him run away.
And you're...
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. No. If Ben is supposed to be Ben is supposed to represent the Skywalker to end all Skywalkers, but yet we're still going to make him a pansy. And
well, that goes back to what I was telling you before.
Yeah, watching Kylo Ren is like watching how they made teenage and adult Anakin Skywalker behave in the prequel movies. That is what I get from Kylo Ren. It's like they just rewrote Anakin to try to make him cooler.
Well, right. Well, and the other thing is that even Anakin, Anakin, you don't underestimate my power and all. I mean, even all that kind of crap. I mean, he still didn't have temper tantrums where he takes out his lightsaber and just starts hacking at crap. God, I'm such a big baby. And people just stand there and watch this. Now, yeah, okay, he's got the Force. But I'm sitting there thinking, if I'm in the Empire, this is my quote-unquote leader, yeah, I gotta go. I'm gonna take my chances somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm gonna join the rebellion real quick.
Real quick. I got to go. But that and the whole, the Jedi must die. The Jedi must die. What? The Jedi must die.
I'm like trying to Google the characters' names. In the minute that I typed in the words Last Jedi, your favorite word, Last Jedi sucked, popped up first.
Imagine that. Oh, I ranted. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I ranted for days and days and days and days and days about this movie. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. And Disney, who talks about, this movie made over $1.3 billion.
Yeah, of course they're going to talk about that.
Well, yeah, but then they don't sit there and tell you in the end, well, we only made about a couple of $100 million profit, but we still haven't paid off that, that $4 billion we paid off to George Lucas. And that's the thing with these movies. I mean, these movies, all of these movies need to do exceptionally well. Because you have to figure, with a simple 5% growth in your return, each time you pump out a movie, I mean, a simple 5% growth of what you're paying per year on that initial $4 billion investment, if you're not making a 5% growth, you're wasting your time.
Right.
And the biggest problem with this movie, and I think the Star Wars franchise in general, is Kathleen Kennedy. Now, Kathleen Kennedy was handpicked by George Lucas and Disney to take over the franchise.
Yeah.
And under her tutelage, she has run this franchise into the ground. Now, there's nothing more evident about it than the closing of Toys R Us. Hasbro, which is taking a major, major hit because they so banked on these new millennials buying this drivel that was The Last Jedi that they made Hasbro fork out a $225 million upfront licensing fee. Now, you can walk in at any store, even to this day. I mean, Toys R Us still, Target, Walmart, Kohl's. Hell.
Did you ever get to see that show about the toys that made us?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I did.
And what did you think about, and I bring that up because you're talking about the toys part, because for that was a history lesson for me, because I didn't realize all of that went into the deal.
Well, the Kenner deal with Lucas was totally different, and I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But as I said, you can find, I mean, even Force Awakens toys in any of these stores. Now, that movie's been out 3 years ago. Nobody is invested in these new characters. Nobody gives a shit about them. There's nothing to get invested into. Hi, my name is Ray. I'm the best Jedi there ever was. Never mind the fact that I've never had any training. I'm a Luke Skywalker clone that lived on this dust ball planet, took off in the Millennium Falcon that just happened to be there. Knew how to fly it instantly, even though I've never flown anything in my life. Discovers I have the Force. And now I'm the bestest Jedi there ever was. Okay. And I'm invested in this how? Well, it's not for men, it's for women. Okay.
But yet, even a woman would have to go through training. Like, we're going to assume that Leia had some Force training.
But Leia didn't have any Force training. That was the other thing.
But we're going to assume that she had it to be able to use the Force to pull her fucking across time and space and everything.
For Mary Poppins routine, yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be different even if, say, in The Force Awakens, that they made some kind of reference. But I mean, who's going to teach her? Remember, Luke's been gone. He was gone the whole time.
Apparently not. That he really wasn't gone.
No, but when you get into The Force Awakens, yeah, he was already gone. Remember, the movie opened with they're trying to build. I'm getting my movies confused. I'm thinking of Rogue One. I mean, The Force Awakens. They make no reference. I mean, Luke is just gone. It's the Han Solo. Oh, you're the deadbeat dad. And I'm going, what? But I mean, Harrison Ford had the best part. He's just like, look, I want killed. I want out. The Star Wars days are done. Just kill me. And he got paid an obscene amount of money
Mm-hmm.
to get killed. I mean, he got paid the highest out of all of them. At least according to published reports. Put it that way. Um, and yet you go into The Last Jedi and it's just, okay. So we're going to kill any integrity the original characters had.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, Han Solo, deadbeat dad, took off. Of course not Leia, though. The matriarch has to be there. She's still leading the rebellion and fighting the good fight and all that. And you're going, okay, but we got to kill everybody off or make them look stupid
Mm-hmm.
to promote these new characters that nobody gives a shit about.
Because they wanted to make them relatable, and they get what's making them relatable, but sometimes not every mom can just do everything.
Well,
And
no, but not even in Carrie Fisher's case, but I'm talking about Rey and Finn and Poe and Rose, and you're going, I don't relate to any of you. I mean, unless you're somebody that comes from a well-to-do family that has never had to work for anything and everything was handed to you and it just flows, okay, you might relate to Rey. I mean, in The Force Awakens, I actually liked Finn. I liked Finn's story. He was a
yes,
stormtrooper that basically cracked, and I'm like, okay. And then they hint that possibly that him and Poe might be gay. There was a hint of that. I didn't. It wasn't a big one, but you kind of go. You kind of look at it for a second. The whole jacket scene can be looked at in several ways, but
okay,
you're kind of going, okay. But I mean, the instead of being Rey's story, you get the feeling that this is Finn's story, and they sort of sold it that way.
right,
I mean, it was sold at least in the trailers, and that this is going to be Finn. You're going to have a black man as a Jedi, and here you go.
yes,
And I mean, and I know that people lost their mind about it, and I'm going, who cares? As long as they write it well, I don't care.
right,
But and then you come to discover, oh no, that was the pitch to get you in there. No, and the real Jedi is Rey, who's never been trained, but just a natural in everything. I mean, in everything.
yeah. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What was up with that big giant piece of fucking medical tape down Ren's face?
That big piece of medical tape down Ren's face.
Yeah, like when you see when Snoke forces Kylo to take off the helmet, this his little I'm Darth Vader helmet, I'm Darth Vader 2
Right.
helmet, and you see this big giant black mark on his face. And then you take it to a couple of seats later, tape's gone, and now it's the big giant scar.
Scar mark.
Yeah, were they not? Would he like not sit still for his scene to have the stupid applique put on his fucking
I
face?
don't know.
Did we go, oh, for a a little portion of this movie, we're gonna have it with black tape, and then all of a sudden we're gonna turn around, and next time you see him with the shirt off, we're gonna show you, yeah, the tape's gone.
Yeah, the scar is gone, and
But we're gonna have the gratuitous shirt off scene where Ray goes, "Will you put your clothes on, please?" I'm like, "Bitch, you're talking to who reached out to Kylo Ren first? Was it me or you?
right.
There's no like, you know, let's make sure that you're dressed in the Skype call and getting all blushy and embarrassed because you see your enemy with his damn, man titties hanging out. Who gives a shit? Shut
Well,
up."
yeah, but that the interesting thing in that is the subversion of that scene.
Hmm.
The subversion of that scene, and people are going to say I'm crazy, but is that the new trend in the pro Hollywood feminist movement is that now they want to turn the tables, so to speak, where men ogle women in these movies and they're in these tight dresses or they're in a provocative pose or they're whatever over sexualized, as they say.
Mhm.
The new pervasive is now no, we want to do that to men now, and that scene was supposed to be part of that.
That scene wasn't enough of that.
that was supposed to be eye candy for you women.
That wasn't enough. Eye candy would have been not with them big giant mom pants that he had on with the mom waistline. I want to see damn near the beginning of his fucking pubes, and
Well,
then I will agree.
I mean, they could have put him in some boxers and said, "There you go."
Yes, but guess what? According to George Lucas, nobody wears fucking underwear in space, so that was as close to an underwear shot that we was gonna get. But they should have did more.
Yeah, but
I
Kathleen Kennedy and Ryan Johnson don't give a shit about what George Lucas says or anybody says.
right,
They could
because
have
we're
done
just
it
ready
anyway.
to be writing it and doing whatever. Because if that was supposed to be the eye candy Mancy, no, we can do that with Poe.
Well, apparently not. You're going to get Kylo.
No, I want Poe or Finn.
You're out of luck there.
I don't give a shit.
I
We're gonna
mean,
have some mansplaining and some eye candy, motherfucker. I want to see dick for days for one. If
well, good luck, because probably what you're going to get is Finn and Poe making out next. That'll be episode 9. See, basically, right now, as it is, it's you see the feelings between Rey and Finn, and then they kind of bypass it in this one for Finn and Rose, which is in one of the most dumbest scenes
ever. I mean,
imaginable.
Rose
We
was
gotta
just
protect the ones that we
the
love.
Rose character. He could have did that without her, and
Well,
it would have made better sense.
one of the most heartwarming and really gut wrenching parts of the entire film would have been had Finn sacrificed himself in that big cannon like he originally planned. You would have been like, wow, okay,
Yes,
we're finally getting into this movie. And
yes.
then all of a sudden, that whole crash scene, and you're like, what the fuck?
Oh God, I did. And I was glad that I was at home by myself watching it because I did. I yelled out, "What the fuck?" It's not a love, silly. I'm supposed to save you, bitch. Please. That nigga dying would have been just fine.
Right?
And I'm sorry, he would have been just fine. And and I'm sorry. I am a black person, so I can say the N word all I want to in this podcast. But for real, he'd been, Finn giving his life for the Jedi. That would have been fine. He was a
Well, not even the
he's a
Jedi. I mean, he would have
hero.
been giving it for well, not the rebellion, the
Yeah, if he's supposed to
whatever
be
it's
a
called now, the
rebellion
resistance.
hero, and yeah, a rebellion or resistance hero, they know that at any given time they're gonna die for their cause and for their beliefs. So it would have been fine for Finn to have made his exit at that time, and not to have Rose come and save the day and dang near kill her own self.
Right.
Because what if the trajectory had went wrong and they both got sucked up into that cannon? Oh, boom! There's two cannons, two cannon characters gone
Well,
because
but I mean, but
Finn.
the insult takes place before that. So this whole planet's supposed to be salt.
Yes.
Hence the red lines. You're like, no, no, motherfucker. That's snow. You're stealing the whole Hoth scene here.
Why didn't you just go back to Hoth? Oh, we're not in the same galaxy.
You know,
Well,
but you look at those ships and you're like, wait, you got these little clunkers, whatever, skiffs,
uh-huh,
and you're gonna go fight the new version of the the ATST, and I'm going,
uh-huh, uh-huh,
or the new ADAT, sorry, and and I'm looking, and I'm looking,
uh-huh,
and I'm going,
uh-huh.
I'm just waiting for them all to open. I mean, they're all standing there like a pack of dogs. I'm waiting for them to open fire, just obliterate them all. You're all dead. That's all I kept saying throughout the movie is, "You're all dead. You're all dead. You're all dead." Boom, they're going to flash that door, this is
The
over.
bomber ships, to be honest with you. I'm like, who makes suicide bomber ships in the future? And say that's a good idea.
Well, no, a bomber ship is not a bad idea. The fact that they move that slow,
yes,
is ridiculous. Because when they started shooting, and it wasn't only the
and then they had no other weapons but the bombs that they're carrying.
Right. Yeah, they're totally dependent upon fighter support, and I'm going, okay. But that frigate, and I'm like, wait a minute, you still got, Star Destroyer support here. What the hell? Tell me how anybody survived that. Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. And then all of a sudden, we're back on this rebel planet that we find. Oh wait, it's empty. There's nobody here. Oh wait, I think there's a way out back. What?
Yeah, all of a sudden there's only one in and one out, but then all of a sudden all the crystal boxes disappear, and now all of a sudden we're running past one of these. One like mysteriously is like slowly leading him back to this hole that he escapes out of. That of course Ray has to show up to save the day to open it up.
Yeah, she's got to get. Just happens to be there. Oh, and I'm going to blow up these rocks. Even though I haven't really had any force powers before, barely able to get this lightsaber to come in my hand, and yet I can do the Jedi mind trick on you, even though I have no idea what that is. You will let me go. I will let you go. What? I mean, this movie seriously hurt my soul. It was that bad. This movie hurt my soul, and all they seem to be doing is doubling down on this movie, doubling down on this movie. Guys don't know what you're talking about. You're a bunch of fanboys.
I can be a fanboy. I don't want to see Kylo Ren, who made this big what to do about killing his dad in the first movie, get to the second movie and just can't pull the trigger against his mommy because, of course, he just has to love his mommy. Hates his dad.
Right.
It's his dad's
Hey, mama's boy.
But
Gotta be a mama's boy.
Gotta be a mama's boy. But oh no, my uncle tried to kill me. Which dude is it? Which person do you have a problem with in your life? Is it your dad, your uncle? But mom's okay. No, if he was a true Sith, no. And I'm gonna prove that I'm everything that Vader was. I'm Vader's second coming. I'm gonna pull that trigger and kill my mom.
Right. Well, but that there again goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where you have this. We have to make white men look stupid and whiny and everything else, because you notice it's only white men in this movie that look that way. As I said, you've got Kylo Ren, mama's boy, big whiny baby brat. You've got the grumpy old hermit who's going to kill his nephew. Okay. You've got General Hux. You basically got little Hitler boy.
But okay, General Hux should be that though, because
right, but he's supposed to be. But what I'm saying is that they would never dare, in that same breath, put a black character in the role of General Hux, in the role of the new Emperor, in those evil roles where you look bad. They would never do that. But it's okay to shit on white men and make them look like, they're greedy. They're, like I said, you look at the whole planet on Jakku, it's like, okay, you look at that whole scene and what are they? Bunch of white guys.
Everybody was white in there on Jakku either.
No. But the vast majority of them were, and if you notice, they were old white guys. The majority of them, with the exception of what's his name? God, I'm drawing a blank. That they recruit that ends up double crossing him. Most of the rest of them are all old white guys who are living it up. I mean, you got a couple of aliens in there. Fuck you little people, we're living it up. Yeah, we got the kid slave trade. We got the animal abuse because of the races, and you're like, really? I was waiting for the save the whales moment.
I didn't like the whole that one where they said, "Well, oh, he's whipping the animal," blah blah blah. I was like, "Yeah, no shit. Hello, that's what they did." You know, the animal abuse was there in other nations. Jabba the Hutt did that too.
Jabba the Hutt would kill you in a heartbeat and not think twice about it.
You like, motherfucker, who are you talking to? I'm Jabba the Hutt. Bam. I know every trick that there is. Them kids, the entire racket on Jakku would have been ran by Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba the Hutt would have had that stuff on lockdown from the beach.
Right.
It would have
Well,
been that
but
long around now.
but that whole 30 to 40 minute sequence
Mm-hmm.
was completely unnecessary.
It could have been done. It could have done better in the right way. They just wanted to make it like an upscale version of Jabba's. Well, if you're gonna make it an upscale version of Jabba's, do it the right way and see is who is the person feeding that entire resort. And you have Finn going, oh yeah, this stuff is wonderful.
Well, but no, their statement was war profiteers. Why? Because they're selling ships and weapons to the resistance. They're selling ships and weapons to the Empire. It was their take on war profiteering. Basically, big business is all about war profiteering, and that's all it is to it. And while they're living in their ivory towers, enjoying money from both ends, living the grandest life, you live in a shithole hovel, basically a slave, and they don't give a fuck about you or your animals.
That has been written into the Star Wars line, even through the TV shows, though.
You do. You have different classes of people. I mean, and that's in every society, whether you're talking Star Wars or real life.
Right.
Now, you don't, I mean, and even to the point, you can go to the point of saying, excuse me, that slavery does still exist. Because, I mean, there are a lot of people who are wage slaves.
Right.
I mean, and I understand that. But in the context of an already shitty movie, with no direction at all, we're just going to jump from here to here and do this stupid shit, and we're going to run around the island and, have strange animals giving Rey this dirty fucking look like, who are you? And you're like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
To go off on this tangent point of we got to show the war profiteers and the slavery and the abuse of animals.
Right.
For 30 or 40 minutes of screen time for a movie that was already too long was not necessary.
Exactly. And a lot of the other reviews about Last Jedi does pan that entire segment with Rose and Finn. It's like that was 40 minutes that they could have easily chopped out of there and left alone.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, it was complete.
That scene, that entire segment of the Rose and Finn story arc was just, yes, we were happy that we decided that we're gonna try to do Jabba's again, but with the different competitions between people, and of course you're gonna have a bigger bar scene because George Lucas likes bars.
Well, no, you keep it, but remember, George Lucas had nothing to do with this film, nothing at all.
Right.
But they stole it. Yeah, they stole it from his other films because he liked the whole cantina scene. So somewhere in every movie is some kind of cantina scene.
Right. This time we're going to make it a casino because Jabba was a casino runner. He did a bunch of different things. He just didn't have one thing. He had a big giant casino. And then he had a floating vessel as well. But he had a big giant casino. So having races, and bets on races. We're gonna have the gaming tables because in
Right,
Star
like you
Wars
saw the
there's
pod race, and like when you saw Jawa at the pod race in the
yeah,
Phantom Menace.
right, and they were betting on who was gonna ring in the Rancor pit.
Right.
Um, but and then let's turn around and yeah, let's make Monte Carlo in the middle of space, or Tortika in the middle of space, and let's turn it into the rich get richer and the poor just
Good
keep
for
getting
both.
shit on.
Well, right. Like I said, that was another one of their political moments. You can go through the entire film and
Yeah.
go, okay, here's your public service announcement,
Hmm.
and here you go. I mean,
Here's the whole we know sons love their mothers, and no matter what happens between them, the son will always love his mommy.
well, yeah,
And
mom is always the good person. Dad's a piece of shit. Well, your
yeah,
uncle, well, he's a man, so he's a piece of shit.
and he's kind of creepy because he snuck up on you when you were
Right,
sleeping
kind
on
of
the
creepy.
side.
Yeah, was he gonna molest you or something? I was waiting for that one to come out
All
next.
right, and then we're gonna turn around and give you a fake feelings for a girl that you barely know and that you barely met, and you know everything about her from her conception all the way forward. But yet he knows who you were because he saw you a long time ago. But they don't make that explanation in the very first
No.
one. That's what pissed me off. They don't show how he knows shit about Rey, everything about Ray. Because remember, he said which girl. So you think, oh, aha, Ray's somebody important to Ben. Where they connect the dots. No,
No.
just this.
It just happens.
This
Oop,
is
there you go.
Snow deciding. Yeah, I wanted to have fun. What?
Well, see, and
What?
I always had a vision of how they could correct this dumpster fire for episode 9. Now, here's my take on episode 9 that I think would totally turn this latest trilogy on its ear. Now, Kathleen Kennedy would never do would never do anything like I'm suggesting, because it would in her eyes portray women in a bad light, and she would never do that. Now, my thoughts on episode 9 would be, okay, let's get this shit back together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the point that Rey, who really has no force training, even though she's been very lucky so far.
Right.
It was ridiculous that Snoke was killed. But in episode 9, you're going to find out that it was a clone. It was not the original.
Hmm.
Okay? And what's going to happen, one of the big arcs in episode 9 is actually Rey is going to be the one to fall. She's going to be subverted by the dark side after finding out that basically her parents were drunks. They were nobody. Who gave her away for drinking money, which was the stupidest fucking part. Oh, another one in The Last Jedi that just. Oh. But you're going to basically cause it in episode 9 to where Rey falls to the dark side.
Because she was too easily seduced to the dark side, according to Luke, that
Right.
you just went straight to it.
Well, right,
Why?
but in here you can come up with some event that just really pulls her in.
Or the where
And
in Star Wars Legends, the canon that is supposed to not exist, where Luke had a clone of himself too.
right. But I mean, you don't even even not even bringing Luke back. You have Snoke come back, but basically um, Rey falls, and actually the one that turns and becomes redeemed is Kylo. You can expand upon that Skype calling, as I call it, between them. That um, that Kylo could have some kind of genuine feelings for Rey, and sees that Rey is being manipulated, and you have Kylo's redemption story while Rey falls, and he has to kill her. It's not like Darth Vader where he's going to save her.
Mm-hmm.
He has to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't worked out the plot of why exactly he would have to kill her. But I mean, if she was such a natural as they've written her so far, she turns to the dark side and even becomes an even more of a natural as a Sith. That in itself would make her a danger. Now, you can go through the steps of trying to pull her back, but it's not going to happen. That he has to kill her. You can give Snoke a minor part in his part of her downfall,
Mm-hmm.
and he can even kind of fade into the background, where basically you have, instead of the male whiny boy as the new Darth Vader, no, you have the so-called most powerful Jedi yet falling to the Sith, and your own more or less female version of a Darth Vader, even though she doesn't have the armor and crap, or you could put her in some kind of special armor where she hasn't lost any limbs yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Kylo who gets his redemption, trying to save her, but he can't, and in the end, basically kills her. And you have his redemption, but not only that, the Skywalker line doesn't end. Because you have, Kylo mating with whomever,
Mm-hmm.
go down the kind of like Anakin. I mean, the Skywalker line goes on. Now, you can do that in this movie. And of course, you have to write other things around this movie about the Resistance and the First Order and so forth and so on. But that's the crux of Episode 9 is Rey falls. Kylo is redeemed. I mean, and the redemption comes pretty much the moment he kills her. I mean, just think of how powerful that would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you can excuse, like I said, some of the stuff from you can pull from The Last Jedi some of the stupid shit that Rian Johnson did. Build a story along, where there's the crux of the main story, but and you have the rest of the story around what happens to Finn, what happens to, everybody else, and Poe, and a bigger picture, because if she falls,
Mm-hmm.
she knew about the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, you have that almost Death Star from a New Hope scene where they're coming to destroy you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there you can build a larger story arc with that at its core. I think fans would walk away extremely happy if you told it in just the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the tie-ins from The Last Jedi, as much as this movie sucks, I mean, this movie just blows, I think that fans would go, okay, you pulled it out in the end. It makes sense from a point that you have the Mary Sue in the beginning, you got the Mary Sue in the middle, but the Mary Sue falls.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the redemption of a Skywalker.
Yeah.
And then you can expand upon that in the next trilogy if you chose to, or if not, go in a completely different direction. But the only thing is when you're going from the one trilogy to the other, one, the Empire / First Order cannot be completely destroyed because you wouldn't have a protagonist then. Or not a protagonist, but an antagonist. And you can focus on different characters and doing something different. You can focus on the bounty hunters if you want, or whatever. And it just sets you up for something awesome that people would all of a sudden become invested.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Kathleen Kennedy will never do something like that because how dare you put Rey in a bad light? Why would you think that this all powerful female Jedi would be beguiled in any way,
Mm-hmm.
by Snoke? And of course we have a redemption of a man, so no, we can't do that. We can't do a redemption story of a man, and especially a white man. We can't do that. That would go against every social justice warrior creed that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that she gets out there and says the Force is female, there's just no possibility like that's going to happen. But I was really thinking about it um, after I got over the initial shitfest that was this movie. Going, man, how could they really clean that up? And then when they said that J.J. Abrams had written the script already for episode 9, and I mean, he banged that out in a couple of weeks, and everybody's going, oh my god. And I'm going, no, this should be your story.
Mm-hmm.
You can redeem this trilogy, you can redeem the brand if it's done right. So, but they won't. They'll double down. Kylo will get killed. Rey will go on to be the bestest Jedi ever,
Yeah.
and the Resistance will win for the second time. Whereas, you remember in Return of the Jedi, the Rebels won. No explanation of how the First Order came to be, where they came from. So they'll win a second time, and then you'll have
Mm-hmm.
some new stormtrooper Hitler wannabe guys come in and for your new enemies for your new trilogy.
Right. Let's also talk about the major oops that a fan pointed out.
Okay.
Uh, there was a report that where you're watching the Ray and and Kylo Ren fight with the Red Guards.
Right.
There's one scene where the guard has two knives, and then all of a sudden he has one, and Ray doesn't get stabbed in the back.
Right. Well, that and a lot of people raved about that. That was the coolest fight scene in the entire movie.
And it was one of the worst scenes in the entire movie.
And I'm like, that was probably some of the worst choreography I've ever seen.
Yes.
I mean, I would have really liked to have watched when they were when they were practicing for that. Like if you remember with the prequels, they kept
Mm-hmm.
showing you all the time all the practice that um, they had to go through for their lightsaber scenes and fight scenes
Mm-hmm.
and getting used to this. It was a movie that was thrown together.
And it felt like it was.
Right. And they figured, well, we've got to get out a movie every year now.
Yeah, I just, and I think the major disconnect is the scene where after they finish fighting, you have Kylo standing there telling everybody for the umpteenth time that this movie is not, that the story is no longer about the older characters that you grew up with.
Right.
The past is dead.
The
The
past is
past is over.
right. Well, yeah, that's why the line was written. But the problem is you can't do a continuation of a trilogy and have these people in it, or at least not explain what happened to them. And the problem is that these older characters, Princess Leia, Luke
Mm-hmm.
Skywalker, Han Solo, Harrison Ford, I mean, as old as he is,
Mm-hmm.
people cared more about them. They overshadowed everybody. Why? Because they have a history. They have a presence about them. They have a swagger about them. There's something
Mm-hmm.
there. I mean, when you look at Harrison Ford, the first thing that pops out is Han Solo or Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Okay, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, or the Joker.
Power. Right.
You know, um, Carrie Fisher. I mean, she's done a lot of different things, but primarily it's Princess Leia.
She's Leia. Right.
And, it was in a time when you didn't think about it when the original movies were made. I mean, Carrie Fisher was a ballsy, I'm not going to take any shit off you guys,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and some of the best moments are watching Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher go at it.
Right.
Who's scruffy looking?
Right.
I mean, say what you want. Part of this I blame on George, and you go into the prequels, is that the first one being such a hit, the second one was an even bigger hit. As he got more money and things became more established, is when I think that the storytelling kind of took a second, took a back seat to special effects and different things, or the story he was trying to convey was not coming out the way he wanted it to.
No.
I mean, and the prequels are very, very evident of that. But you can't say that about this trilogy, or at least these two movies in the trilogy. This was J.J. Abrams. He ripped everything off from, A New Hope to do um, Force Awakens. And then Ryan Johnson just shit on everybody and everything and said, no, I'm doing my own movie. Never mind, it's incoherent and doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's my vision of Star Wars. Or it's
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy's vision of Star Wars through me because I agree with her because I'm a kiss ass.
Yeah.
And the fans have revolted. Now, just as a side note, have you seen the trailer for Solo: A Star Wars Story?
No.
You have not.
No.
Okay. The I know that the toys hit yesterday at midnight on Friday. The toys for Solo: A Star Wars Story became available. I
Mm-hmm.
am going to check some of those out. I've seen pictures of them. There's nothing. The Millennium Falcon is a big hunk of junk that they want like $70 for. And when you remember when the Star Wars trilogy Millennium Falcons came out, they were like $40. But I mean, they were big. You could get like 6 characters in there. You had 2 in the cockpit that would fit. It lighted up, made noise. Was just, and it was the same mold that they used for the original one, which was awesome. They just added lights and sounds and everything to it. But Hasbro complains about it's so expensive to make these new toys, and I'm going, why?
Mm-hmm.
Reproduce out the old ones. You're not buying new molds. You're not doing any of these things. Just put the old ones back out.
Right.
But the new figures have no articulation to them. And yet they still want $7, $8, $9, $10 for them. But yet, when we're really in a bind and we do the Star Wars vintage, what they call the Star Wars vintage carded figures,
Mm-hmm.
they're fully articulated and they're like $10 or $11. And you get them on the old card from like the 70s.
Yeah.
So you're kind of going, okay, if you can do this here, why can't you do this here? And I think I'm almost scared to believe that Star Wars slash Disney is going to be the company slash franchise that's going to end up destroying Hasbro. The Last Jedi did a phenomenal job of putting that ball into motion. Like you said, they had to pay the $225 million upfront in royalties.
Okay.
Okay, and then they still get, according to the article I read, and I wouldn't quote me on this, but it's somewhere in the 60 to 70% of all profits based on the toys,
Right.
or more. I mean, like I said, I know it was a fairly high percentage that Disney got. So I'm going, if I have a $225 million upfront cost, I'm giving you 60 to 80% of the profit from these toys, the
Mm-hmm.
licensing fee and so forth. And these toys aren't selling. I mean, Last Jedi toys are still sitting there. Hell, Kroger couldn't give these figures away for $1. They could not
Now,
give.
I've never seen those at my local store, so
Okay, Kroger, if you had their card, everybody's got their card now.
yeah.
Kroger had their, if you could go in and buy a Star Wars figure, the 3 3/4 cent one, for $1 if you had the Kroger card. You could get a
Wow.
lightsaber for $7. You could get the vehicles for $10,
Oh no.
and they still couldn't get rid of them. I mean, they still couldn't get rid of them. And the one figure especially that they cannot get rid of
Mm-hmm.
are the Rose Ticos. Now, Ethan Van Sciver went to his local Walmart, and pretty much everybody else was gone, but they had one peg hook full of Rose Ticos. They had them
And
on.
Rose is not a good character.
They had
She's
them
just
on,
not.
on sale for $4. But when you look at the Star Wars section in general, besides all the Rose Ticos, I mean, now my stores have a lot more of the other figures, and like you said, they're on clearance for $3 or $4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the 3 3/4 cent Star Wars black ones that were done from the Last Jedi, where you got the Princess Leia and Rey and so forth. And hell, they had those on clearance for $287 and couldn't get rid of
Oh.
them. But I mean, you have this, and you see in the pictures that people have done of Toys R Us where there's just mounds and aisles of this Star Wars shit that they just cannot get rid of. I mean, there's a ton of it. It's overpriced. It's cheap. There's no articulation to them. Um, they're just overly expensive and cheaply made. I mean, to give you an example, when the Power of the Force line came out in '96, the electronic X-wing fighter, it made blaster sounds, ship noises, and everything. It
Mm-hmm.
was the exact same mold of the original one from 76 or 80. I mean, they were all pretty much the same mold. The only difference was they didn't have the little light up thing in the front. They closed that off and did better sound effects for it. Now
Right.
those, when you bought those, now granted this is 1995 though, they were $20 a pop. And okay, and you're going, okay, that's not bad. I mean, and I'm sure that price vary across the country depending upon where you are. Um, Now these new ones, like which are still sitting on the shelf for The Force Awakens, are $60. There's no electronics in them. They're smaller. The plastic in it is completely hollow. And they want $60 just because it has the Star Wars name on it. They figure people will buy it. And this is an example of why this crap is sitting on the shelf. Even Walmart, for um, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, they did the TIE Interceptors.
Okay.
Now, Toys R Us had these things for $45. Couldn't get rid of them to save their life. Now, this was right before Toys R Us announced their bank that they were going out of business. Walmart had them. Now, there were two different versions. You've got one that came with 5 of the Nerf missiles, and you had apparently the first one that came with 3 Nerf missiles. It was the only difference in it. $45 for the 5 missile one, or you could go to Walmart, and they were already clearing them out for $15.97, and still couldn't get rid of them. At $15.97, and this was, I mean, a sizable toy. This wasn't, some little bit. This was a sizable hunk of plastic, and they still couldn't get rid of them. The Last Jedi has killed the Star Wars brand in that kids don't care, collectors don't care, nobody's invested in any of these characters. And why they continue to want to double down is just absolutely amazing to me. Did you see the deleted scenes from the Blu-ray release?
No.
You aren't missing anything. But I mean, for those of you who have not seen it, you can find it on YouTube. I mean, I'm not buying the DVD or the Blu-ray, but you can go online and you can see the deleted scenes for free. You don't have to buy it. I mean, it adds another 12 to 15 minutes to the movie. And you're like, wow, this was useless. We could have cut out another hour out of this movie and been fine. I mean,
the deleted scenes and got the other stories.
Well, the thing was there are several fan edits of The Last Jedi out there. Right. You have, the feminized version. You have just fan edits in general. And for a movie that was 2.5 hours long, most of the fan edits that I've seen have broken out to about 46 minutes, basically the length of like a 1-hour TV show. That's what they've broken out to. So that tells you how much of this is just filler crap that was completely unnecessary.
Right. And I'm actually on like Walmart.com, and they have the Han Solo that's based from the Solo, and you have to be really, you can't even really find the actual, like, yes, we're talking about the toys from the Solo, the Solo series. Yeah, they don't even have just now the website updated, and now they have a section just for the Solo toys, and everything, because they're supposed to be available for pre-order off of, Amazon, Walmart. So I'm sitting over here at Walmart, and they're saying that the toys are sold out already.
Oh, I can believe that, but I'm willing to bet that Walmart, Target, Amazon, they didn't order a ton of this stuff. I'm willing to bet that they ordered a couple of cases, filled their stock shelves. I mean, their warehouse has probably had, X number of cases, but I mean, was it a huge investment? No. After the bath they all took with the Last Jedi toys, with the Force Awakens toys, I mean, I bet that the order for the Solo stuff was really, really down.
Right, and I think they might go back up with these new Black Series edition toys, because they have like just several different lines right now with the toys that I'm seeing on the website.
Well, right, and the Black Series has always been a mainstay since about 2010 for the Star Wars brand. But I mean, we can get into that to another time. I want to thank you for talking about The Last Jedi with me. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And thank you for spending time with me.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. This is Dreamcast 720, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.